He broke off our engagement over a text. "It's not you, it's timing," he said, but timing didn't buy me the diamond he took back, or erase the years I built his company from the ground up. He thought I'd cry, beg, maybe vanish quietly. Instead, I smiled, because he had no idea that the empire he stole credit for was built on my code, my contacts, and my silence. And that night, I decided both were over. When you build something side by side with someone you love, you don't think you'll end up their casualty. You think partnership means forever, not until someone prettier walks into the office with a pencil skirt and a fake laugh. For 3 years, Daniel and I were inseparable. He was the face of the company, and I was the mind. The investors saw his charm, but I was the one who wrote every pitch, negotiated every deal, and designed the software that made our startup explode into headlines. We were engaged for 6 months. I still remember the way he proposed, standing in our shared office after landing our biggest investor yet, champagne spilling on the floor as he slipped the ring on my finger. He told me, "You're my everything, Ivy. I wouldn't be here without you." Funny how everything becomes too much when success tastes a little too sweet. Her name was Claire, his assistant. Blonde, soft-spoken, always pretending to need help with things she was more than capable of doing. I caught the way he started looking at her, that distracted smile, the phone always flipped upside down. But I stayed silent, not because I didn't notice, but because I wanted to see how far he'd go. Turns out, far enough to send me a breakup text on a Wednesday night. He didn't even call. I read it 3 times. "You deserve better, Ivy. I think I've lost myself in the company, and I need space to figure things out." Space, apparently, meant a weekend in Paris with Claire. The photos hit social media before the champagne dried on their hotel sheets. People messaged me non-stop. Pity, outrage, gossip, all flooding my phone. I didn't reply to any of them. I just stared at the mirror and thought, he thinks he built me. He forgot I built him. That night, I sat in front of my laptop until dawn. My heart wasn't breaking, it was calculating. Every document, every server, every file I had written had my name encrypted deep in its code. Every contract he'd signed was connected to systems I'd designed. He never understood the architecture behind it, he just took the credit and smiled for cameras. But I did, and I had all the keys. The next morning, I showed up to the office dressed in white, calm, quiet, unreadable. Everyone stared. I walked past the whispers, the sympathetic looks, the fake smiles. Daniel avoided my gaze, his arm protectively around Claire's waist as if he'd already replaced me in full view. "Morning," I said lightly, setting my coffee on the table. "You might want to check the servers." He frowned. "What do you mean?" "Oh, nothing," I smiled. "Just a reminder, everything you think is yours isn't." He laughed, actually laughed, thinking I was hurt, emotional, maybe unstable. I just smiled and left. By noon, his empire began to crumble. The main system crashed. Investor dashboards went blank. Client contracts became inaccessible. The automated AI system that handled his largest revenue stream froze. Calls poured in, emails stacked. Panic replaced arrogance. And through it all, I sat in my apartment, calm as a storm's eye, sipping tea as I watched his downfall unfold. He tried calling, dozens of times. I didn't answer. Then came the texts. "Ivy, what did you do? You're ruining everything. Please, we can fix this, together." I could almost hear his voice trembling behind the words. But I stayed silent. For 3 years, I had done everything for him. Now he could face the world without me. The investors called me next. They knew. They'd always known who really ran the back end, who made the magic happen. "Ivy, we'd like to speak privately," one of them said. "Perhaps over lunch," I agreed. When I walked into that lunch meeting, the shift was immediate. They didn't see a heartbroken fiancé, they saw the strategist, the real brain. I presented a simple plan. A new company, fully mine, clean from his name. I had everything, the intellectual property, the source code, the roadmap. All I needed was backing. By the time dessert arrived, they'd already wired the first round of funding. Meanwhile, Daniel's company was trending online, for all the wrong reasons. Words like data breach, leadership crisis, and mass investor exit filled the feeds. His PR team scrambled, Claire vanished from social media, and Daniel issued a desperate press statement blaming technical issues. It didn't matter. The damage was done. A week later, he showed up at my apartment. Same suit, same cologne, but none of the arrogance. He looked smaller somehow, like the air had been punched out of him. "Ivy," he said, voice low. "You destroyed me." I looked him straight in the eye. "No, Daniel, you destroyed yourself. I just stopped saving you." He swallowed hard, the words dying on his lips. "You loved me once." "I did," I said softly. "And I thought you loved me too. But you loved the version of me that kept you shining. You forgot I could shine on my own." He looked around my living room, the blueprints, the mock-ups, the growing plans for my new venture. "You're starting over." "No," I said, picking up my coffee. "I'm continuing. You were just a detour." When he left, I didn't cry. I felt free. The next morning, I launched my new company, Aurea Tech, a system built from everything I'd learned, smarter, cleaner, unstoppable. Within a month, my name was in the same headlines that once worshipped his. Investors shifted loyalties, media celebrated the woman who rebuilt herself overnight. And Daniel, his empire went into liquidation. The same board that once applauded him forced him to resign. Claire disappeared from his side, just like she had appeared, conveniently and for opportunity. That night, sitting in my office with city lights flickering below, I received one last text from him. "You won." I smiled. "No," I thought, "I didn't win. I just remembered who I was before you tried to make me forget." And for the first time in a long time, I laughed, not out of bitterness but power. Because destruction wasn't revenge, it was rebirth. He thought losing me was painful, he hadn't seen what losing everything looked like. But the truth, destroying him didn't heal me. It revealed something deeper, that revenge is loud, but rebuilding yourself in silence is far more powerful. And just when I thought it was all over, someone from his past appeared, with a secret that could burn everything I'd built from the ashes. Success has a strange sound. It isn't applause or headlines, it's quiet. It's waking up to peace instead of panic, walking into a company where every decision, every wall, every code carries your name and not someone else's shadow. That's what life felt like after Daniel. My company, Aurea Tech, exploded faster than anyone expected. The same investors who abandoned me during the engagement scandal were now praising my resilience and brilliance. I didn't correct them, I just smiled. They didn't see the sleepless nights, the shaking hands over coffee, the nights I stared at the ceiling wondering if I'd gone too far. But slowly, that doubt began to fade. Because every success, every partnership, every line of code I perfected felt like a piece of myself coming back home. My name, Ivy Carter, became something people respected again, not pitied. Interviews flooded in, invitations to panels, magazine covers calling me, the woman who rose from ruins. I didn't chase revenge anymore. I chased purpose, but fate has a strange sense of timing. Just when I felt untouchable, my past found a way to knock on my glass door. It started with a single email. Subject: he's in trouble. No name, no signature, just a video attachment. I hesitated before clicking it. But curiosity is a dangerous friend. It was Daniel. He looked ruined, not the arrogant CEO I once loved, but a man unraveling. He sat in some dimly lit apartment, eyes hollow, voice trembling. "Greater than, Ivy," he said into the camera, "I know I don't deserve this, but they're coming for you too. Everything I did, everything you built, it's connected. The truth about the source code, it wasn't just ours." I froze. He looked around nervously before whispering, "They want it back. The investors, the real ones. Be careful." The video ended. For the first time since he left, fear crept into my chest. What did he mean? The code was mine, every algorithm, every design. Unless Daniel had taken funding from someone off the record. Someone dangerous. I spent the next 48 hours buried in research, retracing our financial history, the old deals, the hidden signatures buried in the fine print. And then I found it, a name I'd never noticed before. AR Holdings, a shell company, offshore, anonymous, but the digital trail was there. I followed it deep into encrypted records until a familiar signature appeared under the initial seed contract, Daniel's. He'd accepted funding from a private syndicate before we launched, using my IP as collateral. Which meant, legally, Part of my company was tied to people I didn't even know existed. And they were coming to collect. That night, as I left the office, a black car was parked outside. The driver stepped out, polished suit, a motionless face. He didn't say a word, just handed me a sealed envelope. Inside was a note. Greater than, you've built something valuable. We'd like to discuss ownership. No signature, just an address. For a second, my hands shook. Then I remembered who I'd become. The woman who lost everything and rebuilt it brick by brick didn't scare easily anymore. The next morning, I went to that address. A tall building, no company name, no receptionist. Only a woman waiting by the elevator, mid-40s, sharp eyes, calm like someone who always got what she wanted. Ivy Carter, she said, smiling faintly. You've made quite an impression. Who are you? I asked. Someone who invested in your ex-fiancé's ambition, she replied. And, indirectly, in yours. I crossed my arms. Then you already know I'm the one who made it all real. She nodded. We do. That's why we're offering you a choice. Sell us your technology quietly for 10 million, or, we claim what's legally ours. I almost laughed. 10 million for what I built with my soul. Not a chance. Her smile didn't fade. Think carefully, Miss Carter. Men like Daniel come and go. But the people behind him, we don't. For the next week, the threats turned subtle. Mysterious system breaches. Fake news articles about Araya Tech being unstable. Anonymous calls at night. Silence on the other end. I'd faced betrayal before, but this was different, this was war. And I wasn't going to lose again. I doubled the security firewalls, encrypted the original code in physical storage, and moved servers offshore. Then, I made a move they didn't expect. I went public. I called a press conference and revealed the truth. Certain private investors are attempting to claim ownership over women's innovation. I built Araya Tech with integrity, and I will defend it with every legal and ethical tool available. It was a calculated risk, but it worked. The media turned their attention to me, the woman standing against corporate predators. The mysterious investors couldn't operate in the shadows anymore. Their pressure vanished overnight. A week later, I received a message from an unknown number. Greater than, they won't touch you now. You outsmarted them, like you always did. It was Daniel. I replied for the first time since the breakup. Greater than, why warn me? He answered, greater than, because for all my mistakes, you were the only one who built something real. I just wanted you to know that. That was the last time I ever heard from him. Rumor had it he left the country, maybe trying to start over somewhere no one knew his name. Months passed. Araya Tech grew into a global brand, and I grew into something else, a woman who had learned that revenge doesn't restore what's lost. It just clears space for who you're meant to become. One evening, as I stood on stage at an international innovation summit, I told my story, not as a victim, not as a survivor, but as a builder. I once thought success was proving someone wrong, I said to the crowd. Now I know it's proving yourself right. Don't build empires out of anger. Build them out of clarity. That's what lasts. The audience rose in applause. Cameras flashed. My eyes watered, not from pain, but from peace. Afterward, I stepped backstage. My assistant handed me a note, no sender, just one line. Greater than, now you're free. I didn't need to ask who it was from. I smiled softly and tucked it away. Daniel had destroyed my heart once. But in losing him, I found something far greater, myself. And that was worth more than any empire I could ever build or destroy.